going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's a little after 10 o'clock Central Time. We got a UFC card coming up this Saturday, so I think you guys all know what that means. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, getting ready to break down all 12 fights. We lost Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo Vieira. Vieira pulled out for undisclosed reasons. So we're down to 12 fights now. But it is the last card that we have before the Thanksgiving break, which will be 1 week. Then we come back for 3 more weeks. Then we have a month off of the UFC. So let's enjoy these last 4 cards of the year. Let's find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on these cards. Last week was a great week for me, up over 7 units, cashed every single bet except for one, which was the Wellington tournament money line at plus 186. But cashed under 2.5 in the Blanchfield fight, plus 180. Cashed the under 1.5 in the Span fight at plus 100. Cashed a 2.1 unit bet to win 1 on the Gutierrez finish only prop. Cashed a 3 unit bet on Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Dan Hooker, the money line there. Cashed a 1/4 unit bet on plus 450, Renato Moicano by submission, and cashed a 1.35 unit bet or a 1 unit bet on the plus 135 over 2.5 for Petrosky and Turman. So it was a great week, and I'm really looking to keep it going this week. We've got already 4 tracked bets, I believe, on this card. I don't even have them all up on Bet MMA Tips yet, but we will talk about every single one of them here, and we're going to break down all of these fights. What's going on with you guys in the chat? And by the way, rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson, 38 years old, entirely too young. Evidently, it was lymphoma. Really just, very, very sad to see somebody go that young. Elias Theodorou earlier this year, now Anthony Rumble Johnson, just a fantastic fighter. So, yeah, really, really bummed to see that happen. But, it is what it is, you guys. We're all on this mortal coil here for a very limited amount of time. And Johnson's was just shorter than some other people. So, really going to miss Anthony Rumble Johnson. Loved watching that dude fight. If you couldn't get up for an Anthony Rumble Johnson fight, you might as well be watching some other sport. But yeah, we're going to move on, though. We got my guy Brandon, the MMA Propaholic, in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Brandon? Good to see you in here, man." We've got Jason Pease saying, "If the commissioner changes your scorecard in the cage, how is it unanimous?" Well, it's not. It's not a unanimous decision. It was listed as a unanimous decision. But, yeah, that was optically absolutely horrible. And then we find out afterwards that it was indeed a split decision. Sal D'Amato had the fight scored the other way, that the other 2 judges, he had it for Gomez. The other 2 had it going the other way. And, yeah, we had a guy scribbling on a scorecard before it got handed off to I believe it was Martinez in this case. So, yeah, just crazy. But what are you going to do? There is corruption. People bet these things. There are some fights that have predetermined outcomes to a certain extent, if it's possible. And I don't know what to say. We've had obviously some horrible judging in the past, and then now we've got judging that is honest, at least, but then you find out that the scorecard gets changed. So I don't have a good answer for it, Jason, but the fact is it is a split decision. And the bottom line is it's not rocket science to add up a judge's scorecard. 10 plus 10 plus 9 equals 29. A first grader could do that. So the fact that they're having problems doing that shows that there's most likely some kind of corruption or some kind of hidden hand behind the scenes that's predetermining some outcomes for certain bettors. My guy Mushroom in the room saying, "Oh, yes, this card is before Thanksgiving. We are going to eat this weekend. Let's go." And this man can eat. He's got the best lunches in the entire country. My guy Mushroom, always good to see you hanging out here. We got my guy Jazz in the room saying, "Rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson." Favorite moment of his? Man, when he just starched Glover Teixeira in like less than 20 seconds, that was unbelievable. He had just come off a win over Bader, I believe. And I remember him just cutting down to 170 pounds. And it was just ridiculous. You know, I mean, the guy, there's no way he should have been cutting. I wonder if those weight cuts had anything to do with some of the health problems that he was having, you know, especially earlier in his career. I'm talking those weight cuts where he was cutting from like 220 down to 170 and not even making it most of the time. But going up to from 170 to 205 and seeing how much power he still held up there was always unbelievable to watch. Gonna miss Anthony Rumble Johnson. Bob Spikerman's in the room saying, "What's up, Weezy? Let's go." Alex Pereira, my boy, he smoked that nail polishing, lip glossed, and pearl necklace wearing sissy. I'm so happy that boring bastard finally lost his belt. Yeah, man, we're gonna see Alex Pereira as the champion now, and we're probably gonna get a rematch here first against Adesanya. We'll see how the UFC shakes all of that out, but definitely a great performance there in the 5th round by Pereira. He's got the puncher's chance. I mean, he's not a good mixed martial artist, but he's got a ton of power. And if you willingly just stand with the guy, eventually he's gonna find a big shot. But you know, it's weird about Pereira. I mean, there's at least 15 guys in this division that would dick saw him. I mean, just like off the top of my head, you know, I mean, I think there's guys at 170, you know, that would absolutely destroy. I mean, Gregor Gillespie would probably throw him around, you know, at one from 170. You know, Kamaev dick saws him. Anthony Hernandez dick saws him. Jacob Malkoun dick saws him. There's just I mean, Marvin Vettori dick saws him. If Robert Whittaker has any wrestling at all, he could potentially dick saw him. But Robert Whittaker really doesn't wrestle that much. But God, there's so many middleweights, you know, that can wrestle a little bit. That would absolutely kill this guy. So it's going to be interesting because after they do the trilogy or whatever with Adesanya, you know, I think Adesanya is going to get that belt back, and then Adesanya is the greatest because he's the one who he can beat. You know, Anthony Hernandez, he can beat Jacob Malkoun, he can beat. He has beaten all these other guys, you know, Whittaker, and I mean, he's cleaned out the division, Cannonier, all these guys. So, yeah, Marvin Vettori, doesn't matter, you know, but Pereira definitely was the guy who did have a chance to beat Adesanya, and so they fast-tracked him. They made sure he didn't see any wrestling, and they got him there, and he wound up getting the championship. So good on Alex Pereira. That left hook is lethal. Absolutely lethal. And also much love for my boy Big Money Moicano for cashing that plus 450 by submission. Boha! Yeah, man, that was awesome, dude. I was really cheering for that. Moicano, 6 submission wins in the UFC. The guy is a master of the rear naked choke. M.A. Laren saying, "Oi, making coffees to prepare for this sheesh show of a card with over half a century in total age gaps, favorites coming off losses, and overall the stench of high variance in the air." Yeah, that's for sure. It's, you know, I mean, after we get a card like we had last week, you know, there's always a little bit of a letdown. It's just up to us to find the spots to bet on. M.A. Laren saying, "Help us, Unc, to keep our lovely Czech flapjacks clean away from this money minefield of an event." Well, unfortunately, I've already got like 9 units down on this event, which is just a little bit less than what I had going last week. But, you know, when you see spots, you got to smash them. James Vidal is saying, "Hello, Uncle. Let's go. The max play comes through on Zhang Moneyline. Nice. Hiestand is the spot of the week for me. Good luck." I appreciate you, James. Thanks for hanging out, man. And we got Papa Chuck saying, "Chitter chatter. Let's get at her. Let's go, man." Headley One saying we need the 1-800 gambler banner going for this card. Card after the Johnson Zhumagulov fight is all right. Yeah, it is, actually. I agree with you, man. Oh, it's Smooth Jimmy in the house. Let's go. Daz Files, good to see you in here. Money Bank Locks, Nigel Lee saying, "Oi." Mushroom saying that. Daz Files, what's up, brother? Saying what's up to Papa Chuck and Nigel Lee. Everybody knows everybody up in here. We got Adam Rush saying, "Oi." Yes. We got Mushroom saying, "Adesanya style bet my parlays over and fuck them 5th round." God damn it. It was the 4th leg of the greasy 4-legger. We had cashed the first 3. And this is like the 8th time this year that the fourth leg is failed, and some of them have failed spectacularly. Cyril Gane knocking out Tuivasa 30 seconds before the end of the 3rd round when we would have cashed that parlay. My God, Holly Holm getting fucked over by the judges in the Vieira fight. Derrick Lewis, Serghei Pavlovich to start round 2, and Pavlovich nukes him with the first punch he throws. So many times. And then this week it was, Kamaru Usman, round 5, loses the 4th leg of the greasy 4-legger. It was then this week it was Adesanya in round 5. I mean, my God, unbelievable stuff. Nigel Lee asking if I forgot. No, man, I didn't forget. Just a little bit late, finishing up dinner kind of late here. It's a lot of work to get prepared for this show, man. Silky B saying our favorite uncle. Wish we could hang out, smoke out, and spin some LPs. Yeah, man, I got them right back here, dude. When you're in the city, Silky B, let's do it, man. Because I got some records, I got some smoke. And we could hang out, man. That sounds like a plan, dude. Mushroom saying, "Oh no, the bookies finally got Weezy and Bootsy." No, you did not. No, they did not. Let's go, says Keith. Nacho Buddy Chief saying, "What's up, Weezy?" So I'm thinking 281 might have been the best card of the year. Definitely seemed like the most violent. What do you think? I thought it was a great card. 280 was an amazing card too, but it just those fight like. The garbage decision in the O'Malley fight kind of ruined things. And then TJ Dillashaw with, going into the fight hurt and nobody knew. That sucked. So, I mean, like, I thought 280 from like just a name standpoint had the most potential. But boy, 281 was incredible. And yeah, I mean, I love these pay-per-view cards. They do such a good job. But then they need to fucking... Somebody needs to torch the apex so it doesn't exist anymore, so that they stop being fucking comfortable and doing these shows that they don't have to worry about selling out an audience. So it allows them to put together cards with 8 garbage fights, 2 somewhat intriguing fights, and maybe 3 like fights where maybe one of the fighters actually has a chance at some point in their career to be in the top 15. It gets ugly, and because they do so many cards a year at the Apex, they can get away with this shit. If they were just traveling around the country and having to sell tickets, you wouldn't see cards that are put together like this. That's for sure. We got my guy Kiwi is in the room saying, "Sure all, what's up, man?" We got Papa Chuck in the room saying, "What's up to everybody?" We got Nigel saying, "What's up to Papa Chuck?" Oi, big Papa Chuck. We got Creep saying, "Weezy, I appreciate you and your amazing statistical breakdowns. They're so interesting and teach me and so many others so much. I don't even gamble, but I have to tune into any content you're throwing us." Dude, I appreciate you, man. That's some really kind words, Creep. I appreciate that, man. It feels good to hear that stuff because, us content creators, we do put a lot of work into this, man. Keith Offenlock saying, "I nailed the sick 3-piece Moicano sub, Wei Lee sub, Pejera KO. Wow. And you got it in the 5th round, too." That's something else, man. That is a hell of a hit, Keith. That is ring-a-ding-ding, baby. That did it. Yo, Unk, thoughts on the Izzy stoppage? I thought it was a perfect stoppage. 1 or 2 more punches, and Izzy is cold on the mat. Yeah, I disagreed with the stoppage. I hated it. I think, the champion, you want to see him at least get dropped before you take the belt away from him in the 5th round after he cleanly wins 3 out of the first 4 rounds. I've never been a fan of Mark Goddard. I mean, I think that he's I don't like him as a ref, but either way, I see a lot of people thought the stoppage was fine. And I mean, like Pereira hits like a fucking truck. So, I mean, I could see if Goddard saying, "Hey, I'm worried about fighter safety here." But yeah, I'd like to see the champion have an opportunity to go out on his shield. And, he was moving his head. He was intelligently defending himself. Whether he was rocked enough to continue or he was going to be able to recover from that, that's nobody really knows the answer to that question. But yeah, he was intelligently defending himself. I thought it was a quick stoppage. But, at the end of the day, these guys are going in there, risking their lives. So, sometimes they're going to get badly hurt. It's part of the sport. It's part of the thing that you sign on to when you pick this as a career. So yeah, didn't like it, but it's not the worst fucking stoppage I've ever seen, man. At least he did it decisively. And, fighter safety, he can always go back and just say, "Hey, I'm looking out for this dude's safety." And that's a satisfactory answer. Cuban Assassin in the room saying, "What it do, Weezy? The curse continues. Never make that walk into the arena holding hands with your chick. I mean, Jesus, Chandler was doomed before he entered the cage. I didn't see that. We got Mushroom saying Adesanya wasn't KO'd. He was just style bending towards the canvas. We got Chris Colanzis is in the room saying, Uncle Weezy, congrats on over 2,000 subscribers. Let's make that cheddar, nephew. I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate everybody that subscribed to the channel, watches the content, supports the channel. It means a lot to me. We got the Patreon. I'll get that banner up there. You can always join the Patreon if you want to also support the community here, support your Uncle Weezy. $5 a month for the basic stats package, $20 a month for the prop template. But appreciate you, Chris. Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. We got Ice Viking saying, yes, Uncle Weezy. I'm dealing with so many idiots at work today. It's refreshing to hear your sensible voice during lunch break. Rest in peace, Rumble. Rest in peace. Good to see you in here, Ice Viking. Appreciate you, brother. We got Lou Betya saying, oh, my Balky loving brother. What's up, Lou? Good to see you in here, my man. We got Rob Spikerman saying, I feel you about Pereira, Weezy, but dang, the power in that left hook is always going to be like, oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, look, the guy is the definition of the puncher's chance. He's like Derrick Lewis. I mean, he's just a way more technically sound Derrick Lewis. But with Pereira and Derrick Lewis, it's basically the same thing. They have no fucking ground game. They have no takedown defense. They have no grappling. You only are really doing them a favor when you stand in front of them and don't wrestle. And that's what they've given Pereira in 4 consecutive fights. And with Mihalidis, you got a guy with 2 minutes of cardio and then he's done. And then with Bruno Silva, you got a guy in 7 pro losses has been submitted 6 fucking times. So he's got no ground game. And then you got the third, Sean Strickland. I mean, a fantastic mixed martial artist, but 0 fight IQ. Like, literally chose to stand in front of Pereira, got knocked clean the fuck out, and then said the day after the fight, I would do it again. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, nobody that's champion of the middleweight weight class, like, I would max bet Jacob Malkoun at -200 against Alex Pereira. I would probably put the entire fucking account on Anthony Hernandez at less than -300 against Alex Pereira. I mean, it would be over pretty quickly. And I mean, anybody that could wrestle for 3 straight rounds, dick saws this dude. So I don't like that. I don't like that they let him cut the line. They didn't face him off against anybody that would even shoot a takedown. I mean, the only guy that did was Mihalidis, and that's who he lost round to. So, I mean, he's got puncher's chance is great, but most of the puncher's chance fighters in the UFC suck. Derrick Lewis is one guy who's gotten so many knockouts by just having a puncher's chance, but he's doing it in the heavyweight division where there's no skilled fighters. So we got Mushrooms asking what's for lunch, the Ice Viking, man. We got DJ saying, boy, these Apex fight nights are full of Contender Series debutantes are getting stale. I couldn't agree more, man. I am right there with you, dude. What's up, Daz Files? We got Mitchell Codera saying, oi, Weezy, long-time listener, first-time chatter. Let's stack some bread this weekend, yeah. 1-800-GAMBLERS Anonymous be damned. That's right. Let somebody else call that hotline. We are not degenerate gamblers. We don't have a problem, Mitchell. Good to see you in here. Ice Viking say, hey, Mushroom Bud, pasta and prawns. Probably a small appetizer size for you, though. Pasta and prawns sounds damn good, dude. Noah Allen saying COVID saved the UFC. I don't know about that, man, but it would have been here anyway, but it definitely got some more eyes on it when all the other sports shut down. Bet it all on Jack by KO. I love that, Zero. That's not, I mean, Jack Della Maddalena is going to shave some ass this weekend. I'm sure of it. Charles Johnson is the lock of the card. Change my mind. Street Crew, we'll take a look at that fight. We're going to break it down, my man. We'll see if I can change your mind. Mitchell Codera saying, I agree with you on that, Weezy, but the way this sells way more tickets for the rematch. Yeah, if you went down or out cold, then it's trickier with the previous 2 losses. No, that's true. I agree with you there. Well said about the Izzy fight. Was a touch early. Yeah, it was a touch. I mean, like, look, I'm not going to go out on Twitter and be like, fuck Mark Goddard, worst stoppage ever. I thought he was moving his head. I thought he was intelligently defending himself. Could he have been absolutely separated from his conscious 2 seconds later? Absolutely, 100% that could have happened. I just thought it was a little quick, but like I say, it's not up to me, and I wouldn't want to be hit by Alex Pereira's left hook, man. I'm not stepping in there, man. Nigel Lee saying, if Maddalena loses, I will go broke 100. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go broke if that dude loses this week. Diego M saying, hey, Weezy, fire content as always. Dude, I appreciate you, Diego. Thanks for stopping by, man. We got Daz Files saying, let's smash the bookies to Nigel Lee. And we got ring-a-ding-ding. My guy Bob Spikerman's in the room with the donation of the show. €6 saying I had a 5-unit max bet on Poetan plus 1,000 to be champ in January. Oh, my God. Damn, that 5th round won me 50 units. I am still flat broke in real life, though. But 50 fucking units, holy shit, dude. That is amazing. Oh, my God. And he did it. And there's not going to be any more. There's not going to be a rematch until at least January 1st. So you're going to cash that bet, Bob. That's awesome. Ring-a-ding-ding. Thank you so much for the donation, brother. Appreciate you so much. And Daz File saying, I'm right there with you, man. Still finishing up a show. Love you guys. What's up, Lou? Thanks for coming out, even though you're on a show right now, breaking down these fights. And Bob Spikerman saying, yeah, truth, Weezy. I bet Strickland thinking he would grapple. And I actually bet my boy Bruno Silva as well, thinking he could have success grappling. Izzy's also a good stylistic matchup for Poetan. Yep. And even Izzy won a round from him on the ground. So, but let's get into it, you guys. We're going to start with the very first fight of the night, and I will share my screen with you here. And we will get these stats up on the screen. We're going to talk first about Natalia Silva versus Tereza Bleda, who's making her UFC debut, but she was on the Contender Series. So let me scroll up here in my notes. And you know what? Fuck the notes. Let's just talk. Measurables. We got Silva 25, Tereza 20, but Tereza's much bigger than Natalia Silva here. 5 inches taller, 6-inch reach advantage, and it's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup here. But it's Silva who's a lot more experienced. 19 pro fights to only 6 for Silva, and about 50 more minutes in the cage for Natalia Silva, and about 5 more years as a pro. Look at this, Tereza Bleda, only a 2-year and 2-month career, or 1-month career. And she's had 6 fights. She's 6-0, and she's got, I think, at least 9 amateur fights where she was 9-0. Her last 3 fights that were amateur fights were all against professional fighters, and she beat all of them. So I will take you through that. I believe Maddalena Sormova was in there. I believe someone who just got a UFC win, Cutelaba. Yep, Maddalena Sormova, Lucy Cutelaba, and Lucia Svabova. Back in 2020, she beat these ladies all within about 6 weeks. She got all 3 wins against these pro mixed martial artists. And then, has fought all women with winning records here coming into the UFC. So she's got a good strength to schedule. She's still only 20 years old, though. So, there's going to be some growth for Tereza, but she's in a really good spot so far. Tereza's finished 4 of her 6 UFC wins, 4 of her 6 pro wins, and Natalia Silva has a 77% finish rate in 13 pro wins. She's been finished 3 times in 5 losses. Tereza Bleda has never lost. So when it comes to the striking here, I see Silva being the better striker. I see Bleda being the better grappler. Silva moves really well. Now, Silva's one of these young ladies that's Brazilian, that started ultra young, got a lot of experience, then took 3 years off, came back, made her UFC debut, and basically looked like a completely different fighter, had made massive leaps forward. Natalia is constantly moving laterally. She's very hard to track down, and Tereza Bleda is going to be wanting to take her down. So I think Natalia's got the kind of striking style that's going to lend itself to being difficult to take down. Her opponent was 0-for-6 on takedowns against her, but she was clinched up and held on the fence for about 24% of the 15-minute fight. So Jazz Davicius was trying to take her down. Jazz Davicius much longer, much bigger than Natalia, and but she was unable to like kind of corner her and get her ass on the ground and keep it there. 0 for 6 on the takedown attempts, but she did have a little bit of success in the clinch. Tereza has got solid, serviceable UFC level striking for this division so far, but it's going to be Silva who's better there. But she's got a nasty grappling game. She is constantly going for takedowns. She's got great ground and pound, and she's using that ground and pound to get to set up submission attempts. She's got 2 wins by submission. She's got 2 wins by knockout, but all of these are happening on the ground. So Bleda's an excellent grappler, and she does have the 3-round conditioning to push a pace for the full time here. So in terms of strength of schedule, Natalia Silva really, I honestly believe it's Bleda who has the better strength of schedule, even though she's only 20 here. Fighting, 9 amateur fights, 6 professional fights. And the amateur, the last 3 amateur wins are all better than anything on Natalia Silva's resume. So I'm really interested in this fight. I think these are 2 incredible prospects. 25 years old for Natalia, only 20 for Bleda. It's a striker versus grappler matchup, but Silva being a little more experienced, Silva being very elusive on the feet and having good takedown defense, I think is going to be enough for her to get the nod in this spot. I don't mind violence here. Natalia Silva's got some power. She's knocked out 3 opponents. She's submitted 7 opponents. But she's got an excellent armbar as well. So if this does go to the ground, I think both of them will be aggressive and hunting for submissions. I'm really interested in this fight. I'm going to be picking Natalia Silva to win this one. I'm going to pick her to win it by decision. I think Bleda might actually have the more finishing equity in this spot, but these are 2 really good fighters, and it's a prospect versus prospect matchup, which is strange because there's not a lot of good talent in this division yet. So to match up 2 young prospects against each other is always a little bit risky. But I'm going to be picking Natalia Silva to win this fight by decision, everybody. The next fight is going to be Brady Hiestand at -170, squaring off against Fernie Garcia, +140. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +120. Okay, so we've got the banner up there. We've got the stats up here. So we're going to see right away that Hiestand's got a really nice measurables advantage here. He's 7 years younger. He's an inch taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage here. Fernie Garcia's got the experience record, or the experience advantage, having 5 more total fights, about 80 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 3 more years as a pro fighter. In addition to that, he's got 1 more fight at the UFC level and a couple more minutes in the UFC cage. In terms of finishers, Hiestand the better finisher on the aggregate here in comparison to Garcia. And both guys are fairly durable, but Hiestand has lost by knockout in round 3 to Chad and Helliger on the regional scene, while Fernie Garcia has never been finished. Excuse me. Good, I got water. Refreshing water. Love it. But, Garcia is very durable, you guys. He's never been finished. But when it comes to the striking here, Fernie Garcia's got really nice boxing. He's heavy on that lead leg. He throws in combination. He counters. And he seems to be very fists focused. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks. He loves to be in boxing range. And when he's in boxing range, that leaves him open to counter and lead. He seems to be comfortable doing both. Brady is putting together his striking game, but really Brady sells out for the grappling. And if you're going to be a grappler, a pressure style fighter, I don't frankly care if you can strike at all. As long as you have the conditioning to push that grappling heavy game plan for the full 15 minutes and you can sell out for that, like Jacob Malkoun does, you're going to be fine as long as your opponent has poor takedown defense. And especially when your opponent slows down later in fights. And guess what? Fernie Garcia has bad takedown defense, and Fernie Garcia slows down later in fights. So stylistically, This is a striker versus grappler matchup, and I see the striker not being able to keep it at striking range, and I see the grappler as being relentless here. Look at this. One fight, 15 minutes, 11 takedown attempts, 51% control time for Brady Hiestand, 17% control time against. Almost 70% of this fight was taking place in control time positions for or against. That's a nightmare fight if you slow down, okay? And when you watch the regional scene footage on Fernie Garcia, he slows down, especially when you wrestle him. And in addition to that, this guy is getting his front leg chewed up in basically every fight because he's so heavy on his lead leg, because he doesn't throw kicks. He has to be heavy on that lead leg walking forward to get into the boxing range, and his opponents are having a very easy time busting up that low lead leg. And I think that's part of the reason that he does slow down in fights. Stylistically, I love this matchup for Brady Hiestand. He's not that much less experienced here than Fernie Garcia, only 5 fights, but he's been in the Ultimate Fighter house too. He had 2 fights in there. That's a crash course on MMA. And this dude was grappling with some really, really talented guys, being on Alexander Volkanovski's team and having those city kickboxing guys, grapple with him. I think he was, rolling with Craig Jones every day when he was in the house. So I think Brady's going to get takedowns here early and often. I think Fernie Garcia probably will be able to get back up when he is taken down. But I also don't see him being able to stay at boxing range long enough to win minutes in this fight. The other thing that I don't see is when this is at boxing range, he's not knocking anybody out. This guy is 1 career knockout. So at least if you're telling me, okay, we got a boxer versus a grappler, the grappler's relentless and is going to shoot takedowns even when he's tired in the 3rd round. And oftentimes he's going to get those takedowns in the 3rd round when he's tired. You have to at least tell me, if I think that the striker is going to have a chance, that the dude's got serious power. And that when in the limited amount of times that fight is standing, that he's got a chance to separate his opponent from his consciousness. That's not Fernie Garcia. He's a minute winner. He's a minute-winning boxer. He doesn't have one-punch knockout power against anybody not named Josh Weems. And we've seen Josh Weems in the UFC. The guy is not UFC level. So, Brady is 23 years old in addition to that. So this guy is just going to be getting better. And he's been away from the cage for over a year now. I think we're going to see this guy come and look like an even better version of himself. Trains with Michael Chiesa, and that's the exact kind of game plan he needs to have in this fight. Get the takedowns, get to this dude's back, work for that rear naked choke, and get him out of there. Max bet, you guys. I max bet Brady Hiestand in this spot. 5 units, minus 148 on FanDuel Sportsbook a couple of days ago. If you're on my Patreon, you already know that I did that. And I think that this is just such a lovely spot for Brady here. I don't like Fernie's takedown defense. I don't like his power. And I think that he doesn't have the conditioning to hang in with the kind of pace that Brady puts on his opponents. So Brady Hiestand, probably a late finish here or just a 30-26 decision where he just dominates all aspects of the grappling game is going to be the pick here. We'll say Brady Hiestand by 3rd round submission. I think he's just going to dick saw this dude. Next fight, Maria Spider Girl Oliveira going up against the little monster, repping the Greek flag, Vanessa Demopoulos, training out of Fight Ready MMA. Fun little women's strawweight battle here. So Maria's going to have some nice measurables advantages here, like everybody does over Vanessa. She's 9 years younger than Vanessa. So we got to be aware here that Vanessa Demopoulos is 34 years old. She has been a pro fighter for less than 5 years. So she came to this late in life. It's not like she's 34 and she's been fighting since she was 19 and she's had, 3 knee reconstructions and, has had injuries piling up for super long periods of time. Vanessa doesn't have a lot of miles on the tires, but She's 34 years old, and she is somebody that relies on her strength and athleticism, and that just fades as you get older. So, we're going to have to keep an eye on Vanessa being, because this is not a division where, old fighters are thriving. But Maria Oliveira is 25. She's going to be 4 inches taller, have a 7-inch reach advantage here. And she's also got 6 more pro fights than Vanessa does. She's got about 25 more minutes in the pro cage, and she's been a pro fighter for a little more than 2 years more than what Vanessa has. But Vanessa's got more UFC experience, 1 more fight at the UFC level, about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. And it's Maria with a 60% finish rate in her pro career, 63% finish rate for Vanessa. But Vanessa's finished one of her UFC wins, while Maria Oliveira is not finished yet at the UFC level. Vanessa, much, much, much more durable than Maria Oliveira. Maria's been finished in 3 of 5 pro losses. Vanessa Demopoulos is a real fucking scrapper, and you pretty much got to hit her in the head with a shovel to get her out of there. So, it's just much more durable in this case. The striking, I think that the prevailing wisdom out there on this week when you talk about this match, I think they're going to call it a striker versus grappler matchup. I'm not calling Maria Oliveira a striker. She's terrible. Terrible. I mean, there are boxing coaches that I would never let watch tape on Maria Oliveira, because then they would just say MMA sucks. This is such a garbage sport. These people don't know how to fucking box. You watch Maria Oliveira throw strikes. I mean, I've seen better fights amongst 6th grade girls, to be honest with you. With the way that she throws strikes it's hard to watch, to be honest with you. There's just no technique there. She just throws a bunch of volume. She's game. She's scrappy. And she seems to be pretty tough too. She'll try to fight through adversity. She's not going to just quit in there, except for in the Maryna Rodriguez fight. I think Maryna had badly hurt her when she quit in that fight. But she's young. She's only 25 years old. She can get better. She can get more technically sound. And if she were to take a little bit of time off, she could probably make some leaps and bounds here. But when you just watch Vanessa's striking process in comparison to Maria's, I know Vanessa's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage here, and she's 4 inches shorter. But I can't picture Maria Oliveira dropping anybody ever in the UFC. While when you see Vanessa throw that straight 2 down the pipe, she's throwing with bad intentions. She's very strong. Vanessa's compact, but she's strong. When she landed on Cynthia Arcio in LFA, I mean, she that was a chin spinner. She absolutely separated her from her consciousness. Vanessa hits much, much, much harder than Maria Oliveira. I think Maria might win minutes in the striking here, but I think Vanessa's way more dangerous in the stand-up. And obviously, look, she's way more dangerous in the grappling. That's not even going to be, Tabitha Ricci just schooled Maria Oliveira on the ground. And, I think Vanessa used to train a little bit with Tabitha, because I know Vanessa used to be a Black House girl, and I know that Tabitha used to work a little bit at Black House, I think with Mackenzie Dern as well. Vanessa's gonna kill this girl on the ground if it goes there. And she's gonna be the far more dangerous submission grappler from the top and from the bottom. So saw Vanessa get a nice blast double leg against Jinyu Fry in the last fight out. I'm seeing her go to the wrestling more. I'm seeing the fight ready coaching start to catch up with what Vanessa was doing, because when she came into the UFC, she was the kind of fighter that you don't want to bet on, because she's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu ace who has no wrestling. So, you have to kind of play her game or take her down or find yourself in a scramble in order for her to be able to use that BJJ. And then in the meantime, she's just at this massive reach disadvantage in all of her fights, trying to make that up by pressuring, by walking forward. And, you're going to get hit a lot when you have to fight that way. So I just don't see Maria being skilled anywhere in terms of being able to take Vanessa out of what she does better than Maria, which is right now grapple. And I think she's even going to be able to get takedowns here, because look, Maria's stopping takedowns at a 50%. I mean, a 46.67% clip. She never has had good takedown defense, and she's not particularly strong. And we're seeing Vanessa, start to pressure a lot more, which is huge. And we're seeing her start to shoot some takedowns. Now we got 14 takedown attempts in 4 fights when there were barely any takedown attempts in the first 3. So it's good to see Vanessa taking these steps forward. I think that she's starting to round out her game. And I just think she's way more dangerous everywhere. Look, if she doesn't knock out Maria Oliveira, if she's unable to get takedowns here, this fight still goes to decision, and she still might have a chance because I think Vanessa is just way more marketable anyway. So I like Vanessa a lot in this spot here. I think she's worth a money line bet at plus 105. And I think I am going to be betting her. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but the fact that she's training at Fight Ready, the fact that she's more powerful on the feet, and the fact that she's the far more dangerous grappler here, it seems like at plus 105, it's a little bit of a gift. I mean, could she lose this fight? Sure. She might not have success wrestling. Maria might just throw a lot more volume and use that 7-inch reach advantage that she has, move her feet, circle. She might have made a lot of striking improvements and might be able to keep Vanessa, by moving laterally, by staying on her bike. She might be able to win the minutes here and win a couple or 3 rounds. But I'm heavily leaning Vanessa here, and I think this line should be, maybe minus 140, minus 150 for Vanessa here. So I think I'm going to have to get to a bet at Vanessa Demopoulos' money line at plus 105. But I'm going to pick Vanessa to win this fight by decision. I could see her getting a submission here, but Maria's pretty scrappy and she does have a pretty good get-up game. So Vanessa's still working on that wrestling. I still don't have a lot of faith. I mean, 1 of 14 on her takedown attempts. So you can't be out here going, yeah, Vanessa easily wrestles this girl. She's got to still show improvements, but I think they're putting it all together for her at Fight Ready. And I think the Greek girl here, Vanessa Demopoulos, is going to get the job done and cash some tickets for bettors on Saturday, everybody. The next fight that we got going here is going to be Ricky Turcios versus Kevin Natividad. Natividad plus 135. Now, Natividad, something that I didn't know when I was watching my guy Clint on the Die Hard MMA podcast, who had one of my favorite cappers on, Brandon Olivas, this week. Turns out Kevin Natividad is no longer an Arizona Combat Sports guy. He is a Fight Ready MMA guy. So that was good to know. And we see here that Turcios is going to be 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. And he's also got a couple more pro fights, about 50 more minutes in the cage. One more fight at the UFC level, about 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. So nice measurables and experience advantages here for Turcios. It is going to be Natividad with a 67% pro finish rate, Turcios with a 36%. So Natividad has been the more explosive guy, but Natividad has been knocked out in all 3 of his pro losses, while Turcios has been pretty damn durable. He's been knocked out once. He did get his clock cleaned by Mana Martinez on the regional scene, but his other 2 losses were by decision. So Turcios is probably more durable than Natividad, but Natividad is definitely more explosive, probably the better finisher here. In terms of striking, Turcios kind of just throws the kitchen sink at people. He throws a lot of volume. He's not particularly accurate, but he's fun to watch. He's exciting. Not a ton of power, Natividad, on the other hand, I mean, like, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. I mean, he's striking so far on 145 attempts, is less than 25%. And he's never knocked anybody down. And his striking defense is 54%. He's been knocked down twice in 2 fights, getting knocked down on 3.6% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. And he's absorbing 2.19 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So, it's only a 13-minute sample size, though. So we don't really know what to expect here from Natividad. And Natividad's a good wrestler, but we haven't seen it here at the UFC level. He just seems like the kind of guy, I don't know what Natividad is good at. He must be good at something. He does seem to have some power. I saw him get a knockout over Kyle Estrada on the regional scene. He looked good there. He definitely landed a good shot. But, like, it seems like there's not a lot of process to his game. I mean, he's only attempted 1 takedown in 2 fights, but yet he's got a wrestling background. His nickname is Quicksand, so like you would think that he'd be out there grappling his opponents, but he's not initiating that. He hasn't controlled his opponent yet in the UFC for even 1 second, and he's giving up 23% control time against. So it's just, he hasn't shown out yet here at the UFC level. And as far as Turcios goes, 2 of 11 on takedowns, less than 6% control time in his own right. 45% takedown defense. I wouldn't lay juice on either of these guys. In terms of the strength of schedule, I mean, I guess I'm going Turcios. Now, Natividad overall, because his ratio is better, his total fights are better. Neither of these guys really have anything that we can peel off of in the wins. I'm not touching this fight with a 10-foot pole. Let me just be frank about that, first of all. I don't know who wins this fight. I think a lot of people, what's interesting is that for a guy who's shown absolutely nothing at the UFC level, and a guy like Turcios, who's a little bit of a fan favorite, the fact that Natividad's money line, hasn't been getting really that much more expensive here, or that much cheaper, leads me to believe that, maybe Turcios is not the kind of guy you want to be laying minus 150 on here. A guy that really doesn't get takedowns, a guy that really doesn't have power, a guy that showed less than 20% striking accuracy in his last fight, just didn't even seem to show up at all. You don't lay juice on guys like that, but I don't necessarily believe that Natividad is the kind of guy that you want to be betting on either. I think you're just betting against Turcios if you're betting on Natividad, because he just hasn't shown anything yet at this level. I mean, he might come out here and spark this dude, and that'd be really interesting. And then, people will be like, okay, yeah, now Natividad. But I kind of feel like you would still even need to get a better price to even consider it. So it's a big stay away. I'm going to look with zero confidence. Zero fucking confidence. I'm picking Ricky Turcios by decision here. And here's another fight. Vince Morales versus Miles Johns. Another fight that I got no fucking confidence in. Miles Johns was somebody who I really loved the regional scene footage. He seemed like a really good, well-rounded fighter who was mixing in his wrestling, who had some good, crisp boxing, some power. If you got a little boxing, a little bit of power, you can mix in some takedowns and some top control. You're going to look good on the regional scene. But when you come up here to the UFC, one of those things that you need to do really well. Whether it's the wrestling, whether it's the boxing, maybe it's the takedown defense, against other wrestlers that allows you to be able to keep the fight standing where you're going to be better than them. Whatever it is, you need to be really good at it. And Miles Johns, for instance, 4-2 in the UFC, wins over Cole Smith, Kevin Natividad, Anderson Dos Santos. That fight against Natividad, who hasn't shown much. Johns landed a knockdown and knocked him out there in the 3rd round with a beautiful uppercut. Till that, it was a pretty close fight, man. I have no faith in Vince Morales because he doesn't check leg kicks. He is a boxer, so he's heavy on that lead leg, and he still hasn't really been able to do anything to address somebody that comes out with the game plan that all right, my opponent's going to be heavy on his lead leg, so I'm going to use that target because he needs to get into boxing range, which means I can easily kick his calf if he's in boxing range, and he's going to be heavy on that leg, so those kicks are going to hurt. They're going to slow him down. And Morales is a 2-time state champion wrestler who has 1 takedown in 8 fights. So can I count on Vince Morales to wrestle? No, not really. Can I count on Miles Johns to wrestle? I can count on him to wrestle more than I can count on Morales to wrestle. But here's the thing. Johns is getting his takedowns at less than a 30% clip, and he's controlling his opponents 8.17% of the time. So I can't bet on somebody who's and here's the other thing. 43.75% takedown defense for Morales, right? So he's easy to take down. But if he's easy to take down, why is he only giving up 5.78% control time? This guy's getting right back up whenever anybody takes him down. So a lot of times, if you try to take down Vince Morales, you're wasting energy, and then he might actually get the better of you later on in fights if you're not kicking that calf. In terms of the strength of schedule, that's clearly for Vince Morales. Vince Morales has fought the better brand of competition. He's beaten the much better brand of competition, and he's losing to the better brand of competition than Miles Johns. I think this is very close on the feet. I don't think it's going to be in the grappling for long. The power numbers, a little bit better for Miles Johns here. And the striking defense at 69.5% is very good for Johns. So definitely, those minute winning potential numbers that we look at, significant strike differential, striking defense, volume, other than the volume, which is in the favor of Morales, that striking defense for Miles Johns is much better, and the significant strike differential is much better for Miles Johns. So just because of that, I think that this is about a coin flip. So I think Johns probably wins this fight because he can mix in the wrestling, and in a close round, a takedown with 20 seconds of control time might be enough to lean that judge to pick you for that close round. So I just think Johns has more ways to win this fight, so I'm going to pick him to win this fight, but I probably wouldn't lay juice on him here. I don't trust either of these guys, so I'm not going to trust either of them with my money. But like once I said, again, very, very low confidence here, but I'm going to be picking Miles Johns, and I'm going to be picking him to win by decision. All right. Next fight is going to be Jennifer Maia versus Maryna Moroz. We got Jennifer Maia at plus 165, Maryna Moroz minus 195. And we've got a fight doesn't go to decision up here at plus 250. They're begging you to bet violence in this spot, and it's not going to happen. This fight is going to decision. Both of these ladies are incredibly durable, and neither of these ladies finishes a lot of fights at this level. So it's going to be Moroz, who's 3 years younger, 3 inches taller, and has a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot. But Maia's much more experienced, 15 more professional fights, about 230 more minutes in the cage, and about 4 more years as a pro. But they have the same amount of UFC fights, and Maia's got about 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. Moroz, the much better finisher, 64% in her career, while it's actually 47% for Maia in her career. But Maia's only finished 1 of her 4 UFC wins. And it was everybody finishes Joanne Calderwood. That girl couldn't stop an armbar if her life depended on it. And Maia's been finished twice in 9 losses, but the last time I believe was to Sheila Gaff back in 2012. So look, these ladies, they call Maryna the Iron Lady. Jennifer Maia, very, very durable. So if you do have a lean on this fight, I would implore you to bet them to win by decision. Get a little bit extra money because I don't think either one of these ladies is going to finish the other. And when it comes to the striking and the grappling, like I don't really see advantages for either fighter here, to be honest with you. Jennifer has been great at striking range at the UFC level. Maryna Moroz is too. She's throwing a lot more volume than her opponents. She's landing a little bit more significant strikes than her opponents do, while Maia gets outlanded and only throws just a little bit more volume than her opponents. But, these ladies, neither one of them are particularly accurate. 32% for Moroz, 37% for Maia. Striking defense sitting around 53, 54% for both of them. Neither one of them really has any power. Neither one of them is really getting knocked down at all. 1 knockdown combined against almost 1,000 significant strikes absorbed. But, Moroz is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage and be a little bit longer here. But I don't think she's any better than Jennifer Maia on the feet. Jennifer Maia always keeps things close on the feet. And then when it comes to the grappling, anytime Jennifer Maia shoots a takedown, it's like a moment that you remember in mixed martial arts history because it's one of the better Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners, but she's got no fight IQ. And And, and I think that fight IQ has to do a lot, just as much with what you're working on in the gym as what you're doing in the cage with your training. Because, Jennifer Maia has no process to her game. She's an excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who couldn't get a takedown to save her life. So she winds up fighting to her opponent's strengths almost every fucking time. It was Calderwood who took her down. If Calderwood wasn't fucking stupid, Jennifer Maia would have never been in the position to get that armbar from guard that she got against her. So, Moroz at least uses her grappling to help her win fights. Like, she'll mix it in on purpose, saying, holy shit, I can win minutes with my grappling here. Well, that thought will never fucking enter into Jennifer Maia's head because she just doesn't have any process to her game. She lets her opponent lead the dance. And that's why, she's fought for a title, but she keeps fights close. She knows how to kind of just stay in the fight, and she's durable enough that she's never going to get finished. So she's just going to be there. But if Jennifer Maia came out with a decent game plan, this would be a fight that she would win. And I would be happy to lay plus 160 on her in this spot against Moroz, knowing that Moroz can't stop takedowns, knowing that Moroz can be held down, and knowing that Maia's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is way better than Maryna Moroz's. So if I could count on Jennifer Maia to do smart things in the cage, I'd bet her here. But I can't count on it. Look at that. 10 takedown attempts in 9 fights. Now, when you do the math on that, 10 takedown attempts in 9 fights, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, that equals 0 fight IQ. There's an equation from your Uncle Weezy. And it works every fucking time. If you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but you don't have an idea how to get the fight to the ground, work on it. Get better at it. That's how you're going to win. Unless, of course, what you like doing is making your opponents very uncomfortable and running into dick saws every time you step into the cage, because then that's what you should do. You should not fight to your strengths and always fight to your opponent's strengths. But if you want to make money in the UFC, if you want to win fights, if you want to make this a career that's worth the brain damage and the injuries, you should make good decisions in the cage. But we can't count on Jennifer Maia to do that. So that's why she's plus 160 here, despite the fact that she's fought the better brand of competition, that she's the better grappler, that she's way more experienced here, and that she's really not at a serious deficit anywhere in this fight except for size. So, oh, God. I'm going to pick Maryna Moroz. I'm going to pick her to win it by decision. But if somebody at Jennifer Maia's fight camp and they're like, yeah, she's actually going to grapple, I think the Maia plus money would be great. But I am not laying minus 190 on Maryna Moroz in this spot because I think the striking exchanges are just going to be very close. And I don't think that there's going to be much grappling. And then it's just going to get left in the hands of the judges. And when that happens, you might as well just have the plus money ticket, especially in women's MMA. But yeah, the pick is going to be Maryna Moroz by decision, everybody. The next fight is going to be Charles Johnson, minus 155, versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov from Aktobe, Kazakhstan, plus 135. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 190 here. Hang on just a second. Oh, great. We got fucking 12-year-olds in the chat. That's always great. Awesome. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I don't really look at the chat while I'm breaking down these fights because I'm looking at my notes. So when some idiot comes in there, whatever it is, children, what are you going to do? Leave Brittany alone is right. Absolutely. Okay, so yeah, we got Charles Johnson versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov here. Let me get these stats up on the screen. Charles, much bigger. He's 3 years younger, 5 inches taller, 4.5-inch reach advantage, and both of these guys switch stances on the feet. It's Zhalgas who's more experienced, 7 more pro fights, about almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 2 more years as a pro fighter. He's also got 4 more UFC level fights and about 35 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Johnson who's the better finisher. Johnson has never been finished in 14 professional fights, and Zhalgas has been knocked out once at the UFC level, and he's been knocked out twice in 7 professional losses. He's finished his only UFC win here, but it was against Jerome Rivera. When it comes to the striking, I think it's close here, actually. Zhalgas has got really good striking. I like what I see from him in the striking. He's constantly moving his head. He's constantly moving lateral. He's definitely very difficult to find in the striking exchanges, and I like that. Charles Johnson, what really bothers me about Johnson is how long it takes him to get started. Now, when you watch the tape on Johnson, for instance, the Yuma Horiguchi fight, he loses the first 4 rounds, and then in the 5th round, he just turns it on, and he looks amazing, and he's just throwing volume, and his shots are landing with power. But the first 4 rounds, he's just getting out-volumed by this Horiguchi kid. And Horiguchi's just touching him. Charles Johnson in 3-round fights really fucking worries me because he takes too long to get going. Those first 3 rounds against Carlos Mota, those rounds could have went either way. Mota was absolutely right on even keel with Johnson for those first 3 rounds. And then Johnson, with about 2 minutes left in the 4th, he gets a takedown on Mota, starts dealing with the ground and pound, looks great on top. And then in the 5th round, he just walks him down and finishes him. But it took, these in a 3-round fight, doing great in the 4th and 5th round does you absolutely no good. And Zhalgas is coming out headhunting from fucking moment 1. And the other thing that he's doing is he's mixing in that wrestling all the time. Zhalgas is very well-rounded here. So Charles has fantastic conditioning, but so does Zhalgas. So that's why I don't love this matchup here, because I could always count on somebody that's a little more front-loaded. If they don't get Charles Johnson out of there early, and nobody's ever finished Charles Johnson, he's the kind of guy, he's got that fantastic Olympic steeplechase runner cardio. And Charles Johnson was training for the Olympics for the steeplechase, which is long-distance running mixed with hurdles. And, so the guy has clearly got a runner's conditioning. You watch him late in fights, he gets better as the fight goes on. But starting slow in a 3-round fight is a very, very bad thing, especially against somebody like Zhalgas, who's going to come out there scrapping. And Zhalgas has attempted 27 takedowns in 5 fights. So he's constantly mixing in that wrestling so that we ever feel like if Zhalgas is having problems closing that distance, and he's going to have to close that distance against Charles. Charles is very long. If he does have problems closing that distance, he's going to have to try to clinch up with him. He's going to have to try to mix in that wrestling, get it on the fence. But, we saw people that can chain takedowns together, can take this guy completely out of his game. And Zhalgas actually has the cardio to push that pace. The thing that really bothers me is that you can't convince me that Charles is going to be that much better on the feet at distance than Zhalgas Zhumagulov. When you go back and you watch the footage on this guy, it just takes him too long to get started. And he doesn't have one-punch power either. So I think Zhalgas is going to school this guy a little bit. He's fought the better brand of competition. He's the more likely guy to win minutes with the grappling here. He's got almost as good a conditioning as Charles Johnson. And I think he's got a little more power on the feet. I'm picking Zhalgas Zhumagulov to win this fight by decision, and I have a 1-unit bet on him at plus 140. Plus 140. I got that on Caesars William Hill about an hour before the show started. So I think that this is a very close fight. And I just don't love the matchup for Johnson here. I think that Zhalgas is going to mix in this wrestling enough. I think he's just as well conditioned as Charles, and I think that he's going to be able to compete on the feet with Charles here, who doesn't have that scary one-punch power. He relies on volume as well. Charles will have the better kicks, but I think Zhalgas will have the better punches. And I think it's going to be a very, very close, greasy fight. But I can certainly see areas where Zhalgas gets this decision, where he gets the job done, where he gets takedowns, where he controls in the clinch, and then keeps it close in the stand-up battle to get his hand raised here. So Zhalgas Zhumagulov, the pick to win this fight by decision. And like I say, I've got a 1-unit bet on him at plus 140. Would I be surprised if Charles won this fight? No, I mean, Charles is a hell of a fighter. So, and I picked him against Muhammad Mokaev, because I thought, if Muhammad goes out there and goes balls out wrestling right away and he doesn't have success, Charles is going to have the conditioning to put it on him late in that fight, and he might be the one landing more damage. But Mokaev pushed that wrestling heavy game plan for the full 15. And as the fight went on, he was having more success, not less. And I could see Zhalgas going to that wrestling and using that to probably get his hand raised here. So the next fight, though, is going to be Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts at plus 400, squaring off against the Australian superstar Jack Della Maddalena, minus 550. The fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 325. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think we just got to spend much time on this right now. This kid Maddalena's got really, really, really fantastic stand-up. And he's already got a win over a guy like Ramazan Ameev, for instance. And Ramazan Ameev is better than any win on Danny Roberts' entire resume. So let's just talk about that for a second before we kind of get into the measurables and all this shit. Let's look at Danny Roberts' victories at the UFC level. Nathan Coy 1-2 back in 2015. Dominique Steele 1-4 back in 2016. Bobby Nash 0-3. Oliver Enkamp 0-2. David Zawada 1-4. Zalim Emidayev 0-3. And then Ramazan Ameev in a split decision, who's 5-3. But, Jack Della Maddalena knocked out Ramazan Ameev in the very first round, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Ameev won that fight against Danny Roberts. So, it's possible that if that win wasn't on his record, the combined total of the guys that he would have beaten at the UFC level, and that's in 6 wins, by the way, if we throw out that Ameev win, would be 3 wins and 18 losses. And then, you just compare how Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts looked against Ameev in comparison to how Jack Della Maddalena looked against Ameev. It's clear that when they fought that same opponent, that Jack is just a much more dangerous opponent at this point. And then let's look at the measurables. Now, Danny is going to be a little bit bigger here. But Jack Della Maddalena is 9 years younger. So that's always statistically significant. We're usually looking at over a 60% win rate when we're talking about, a line like that. And I mean, that immediately puts you into, just on that analytic alone, minus 150, minus 175 in some cases, depending on what the age gap is. And Danny Roberts got 10 more pro fights, 9 more UFC level fights. So he's a lot more experienced, but like Jack's got a 91% finish rate, while Danny Roberts has got a 72% finish rate. Jack's got a positive 3.5 significant strike differential when Danny Roberts is negative 0.2. And that's fighting some of the worst competition that the UFC has to offer. Danny Roberts is 2 of 18 on his takedown attempts. So even if we thought that, maybe he is going to grapple here and make things tough on Jack, who we saw get caught in an anaconda, who we saw in a deep arm triangle choke at the hands of Andalusa. Even if we thought Danny could grapple, shit, this guy he couldn't take down a fucking anything. 11% takedown accuracy, 16% control time, 28% control time allowed. And then, so Jack has been taken out a couple of times, but he gets back up. He's got good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's facing guys with better records at this point. Jack should absolutely clean this kid's clock. He's just miles ahead on the feet here. Jack by KO, I don't know what that line is. Somebody was talking about that earlier. Jack by KO is minus 175. So, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I think Jack Della Maddalena goes out there and shaves this kid ass. But will I be betting him? No, not at this line. It's entirely too wide. Would be afraid of a banana peel here, and I don't lay minus 170 for knockout props. I'm going to be picking Jack Della Maddalena. We'll call it against Danny Roberts here. We will call it a second round knockout. Jack Della Maddalena's nose Looks like it defies physics. How many times has that thing been broken, man? It looks like you could surf on that thing. It's crazy. Handsome kid, though. And speaking of handsome kids, Muslim Salikhov is an extremely handsome man, and he is minus 104 going up against Andre Fialho, minus 116. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 175. So we've got Salikhov is old and Fialho is young. 10-year age difference here. Fialho an inch taller and has a 4-inch reach advantage. And even though Muslim's 10 years tall or 10 years older, these guys have a similar amount of MMA experience, as Fialho's got one more fight and a few less minutes in the cage and 3 less years as a pro. But that also means he's been more active as a pro than Muslim Salikhov has. But Muslim has 3 more UFC level fights and about 45 more minutes in the UFC cage. Okay. Both these guys are great finishers, but Fialho 87%, 78% for Muslim. Muslim's been finishing all 3 of his pro losses, while Fialho, it's been 3 of 5. So neither one of these guys is particularly durable. They've been combined finished in 6 of 8 losses, and these guys have finished 4 of their 7 wins. So fight doesn't go to decision here is a good look, in my opinion, because we got a striker versus striker matchup where both guys throw bombs and both guys have over 1% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. So when we compare the striking stats here, this is going to be a striking battle. If we can figure out who wins the minutes and who lands the bigger shots on the feet here, we're going to figure out who's going to win the fight. Muslim will mix in some wrestling every once in a while, but even in the Li Jingliang fight, he got a good takedown in the first round, was in his guard. At some point, Li kind of like threw up like a half-ass triangle, and Muslim just stood up and let him up. You know, he's like, fuck this, dude. If you're even going to try submissions, I'll just have you up here on the feet where, you know, I'm very, very comfortable. And both of these guys are very, very comfortable on the feet. Fialho, kickboxer, Muay Thai kickboxer, pressures, throws low leg kicks, likes to be in boxing range, and when he is, he can counter. And he's got a great lead right hook. He throws everything with really bad intentions. Muslim, very low volume. For a guy who spends, about 89% of his UFC cage time at striking range, he's only offering 6.42 significant strike attempts per minute. But the thing is that he is the king of Kung Fu, and you could see it in the way that he strikes. He's throwing a lot of spinning shit. He's fast with that spinning stuff too. So you always really need to be careful when you're with Salikhov. If he counters you with something, it's going to be something that has the potential to knock you out. And he's just really smooth. Great jab, always feinting. And if he can feint you into throwing out a strike and then counter, that's where he's going to be at his most dangerous. So Muslim's always out there setting traps. And Fialho is a guy with low striking defense, 48%, who does get hit a lot, and he pressures. So, I could easily see Muslim knocking somebody out here. I could see Fialho knocking out Muslim. Muslim did not react well. The first time that Lee landed a big shot, you could tell that Lee saw it in Muslim's eyes that I can get this guy out of here right now. He doesn't want to be here unless he's the one dishing out the shots. So I don't see this fight taking place in the grappling exchanges really at all, unless maybe Muslim just mixes in a takedown, but he won't even try to hold him down if that matters. Even if he gets him down, I don't think he's going to do anything from the top. He's attempted exactly 0 submission attempts in 7 fights, and he's got 2 submission wins in his entire career. That's of 21 fights for Fialho. And Fialho has 1. So another even better bet to look at this fight, if you like the violent spot, is fight to end by KO, because you can get that at better than the fight to not go to decision. It's probably a pretty good look, because these guys, neither one of these guys has even attempted a submission at the UFC level, and they're not really grapplers. So when it comes to the strength of schedule, slight edge here for Salikhov overall. Fialho, better losses, but much better wins from Muslim Salikhov. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, Nordin Taleb, Francisco Trinaldo. Now, those are really good names. While for Fialho, it's Cameron Van Camp, Miguel Baeza. Nothing to really hang your hat on there. Losses to Pereira and Matthews, both of them good strikers. Van Camp, more of a grappler, been a lot more successful as a grappler. And then Baeza, I don't know what's going to become of Baeza. He's got some good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but, he's been getting exposed by some of the higher level strikers at this level. This is a tough fight to call. I do like fight ends by KO. I'm going to be taking a look at a bet there. I don't know if we can get that line yet. I don't think it's available. But Fialho by KO is plus 175, and Salikhov by KO is plus 275. Do they have like a fight to end by KO? I don't see, or either fighter wins by KO, TKO minus 150, and fight doesn't go to decision minus 175. So maybe I'll try that fight doesn't end by KO for minus 150. That could be a bet, but boy, I'm gonna have to go with the youth of Fialho here. I just, Muslim's 10 years older than this guy, and it's a striker versus striker matchup. So I will pick the youth here, and I will pick Andre Fialho to get a knockout in the second round. But I could see either guy winning this fight. Like, the line is a coin flip. I think it's a coin flip. But I'm just going to, I'm going to put it on the Fialho side here because he's younger. I think he's a little more durable, and I think he hits just a little bit harder. But if Muslim catches him with some spinning shit or a spinning heel kick to the liver, it's going to be over. Next fight, you guys. Ion the Hulk Cutelaba plus 155 going up against Kennedy Nzechukwu minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision. Sitting at minus 260 for this fight. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out. If you guys could leave a comment in the comments below, even if it's just oi, that helps the algorithm drive more people to the video, which helps me, maybe eat a little bit more. Not mushroom type lunches, but a couple extra bucks here and there doesn't hurt. So appreciate you guys for supporting the channel, for watching the show, and for hanging out here and talking to Uncle Weezy with your Uncle Weezy about MMA. We got 57 of you guys hanging out live in here right now. So next fight is going to be Costa versus Sherman here. So we got Chase Sherman is now plus 185. Waldo Cortes-Acosta minus 220. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 200 here. So this is striker versus striker matchup. The measurables are almost identical here. About 2 years younger for Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Chase Sherman's birthday is tomorrow. He will be 33 years old. Actually, 35 minutes from now. Happy birthday, Chase Sherman. But Sherman's much more experienced than this guy. 18 more professional fights, 90 more minutes in the cage, 4 more years as a pro fighter, 11 more fights at the UFC level, and 110 more minutes in the UFC cage. He's also the better finisher, as he's finished 15 of his 16 wins, all by knockout, while Waldo Cortes-Acosta has finished 6 of 8 wins. We got some knockouts, 1 submission. And Chase has been finished in 6 of his 10 pro losses and in 5 of his 9 UFC losses, while Waldo Cortes-Acosta has never lost, so he's never been finished. When it comes to the striking, the metrics are right now better for Cortes-Acosta, but that's in basically 2 fights. Really, I think that this is flip a coin. I don't understand. This line makes no sense to me at all. I don't get it. I understand that people think that Chase Sherman's a complete bum, but Waldo Cortes-Acosta is a striker just like Chase Sherman. He's less experienced than Chase Sherman. He fought 3 weeks ago, and got his lower legs, not lower leg, but lower legs chewed up by Jared Vanderaa. And then so he's coming back on a very short turnaround, taking this fight on short notice, and he's not better anywhere than Chase Sherman. Waldo Cortes-Acosta does not wrestle. He does not grapple. He only grapples when his opponent takes it there. And Chase Sherman has never shot a takedown in his UFC career. So this is going to be a striking match. It's going to be a distance striking match between two guys that are the same height and that have the exact same reach and the exact same stance. But one of them fought 3 weeks ago, got his lower leg chewed up, and his current opponent is one of the best low leg kickers in the entire heavyweight division. He's fought the better brand of competition. How the fuck do we get to Waldo Cortes-Acosta minus 220 here? This fight is a coin flip. And I'll tell you something else. When I saw the finish only prop open, right? It opened at minus 350 for Waldo Cortes-Acosta and plus 250 for Chase Sherman. Now, Chase Sherman is the one with a 94% finish rate in 16 wins. Waldo Cortes-Acosta has only knocked out 5 of his 8 opponents. That's 62%, finish rate by knockout for Cortes-Acosta. These guys just recently have both fought the exact same opponent. Chase Sherman knocks out Jared Vanderaa, and Waldo Cortes-Acosta fights tooth and nail with him for 3 rounds and arguably loses the fight. But I scored it for Cortes-Acosta because he was headhunting more, and Vanderaa was really just going after the low leg. But, so Sherman finishes Vanderaa. Cortes-Acosta doesn't even come close, never even has Vanderaa hurt. But yet they're saying that Cortes-Acosta, if there's a finish, that there's an 80% implied probability that it's him finishing Sherman and not the other way around. I don't get it. 1 unit bet plus 250, Chase Sherman, finish only prop. And if this line keeps going, if I can get Chase Sherman at plus 200, I'm fucking betting him on the money line because this is a 50-50 fight in my opinion. Yeah, Waldo might be the better boxer. He might be faster, but might be doesn't do me any good when I'm laying, minus 220 on the money line. It better be damn well is. It better be also, he can take down Chase Sherman if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet. But he can't. He hasn't taken anybody down ever. So the one thing that Cortes-Acosta, in my opinion, has a big advantage here, and that's the conditioning. So I think round 3, Waldo will be Waldo's best round in this fight. But until we get to round 3, I think this fight is pretty much even. And I'm actually going to pick, though, Waldo Cortes-Acosta to win this fight by decision because I just think, he's more marketable at this point. He'll have the Dominicans behind him. When Chase Sherman, it's just like, he's from Mississippi. Nobody gives a fuck about anybody from Mississippi. So, we'll take Cortes-Acosta and get an entire country behind him. The Dominicans show up for their boys. So I think Waldo Cortes-Acosta wins this fight by decision. But guys, I think it's a coin flip. It's a striker versus striker matchup. And when you get grappler versus grappler or striker versus striker matchups, and one guy's minus 200 and the other's plus 170, think last week. We had Trizano going up against Choi. Choi, everybody says, is the better striker. But I'm saying I'm not betting him because Trizano is going to get the fight that he wants. And when the guy that's plus money is getting the fight that he wants, that's the side I think you want to be on more times than not. And that's the case here for me. This line makes no sense to me. I think that this should be minus 115 apiece, honestly. But I don't make the lines. I just bet them when I think they go too far one way. And in this case, the bet is going to be Chase Sherman's money line if it goes any further. And the bet is already that finish only prop at plus 250. Chase is the better finisher. Chase has finished guys that Cortes-Acosta couldn't finish. And Chase has fought the much better brand of competition. So, yeah, that's going to be the pick. Waldo Cortes-Acosta by decision. But I'm picking that. I've got the bet on the Chase Sherman finish only prop. Next fight Going to be an absolute banger here between the Hulk, Ion Cutelaba, and Kennedy Nzechukwu here. So, yeah, I fucked up. I was supposed to do the I have them in the wrong order on my screen. I didn't change the order. So this is the co-main event, and it's going to be Ion, who's a little bit younger, but Kennedy Nzechukwu 4 inches taller and an 8-inch reach advantage. Cutelaba, much more experienced, 13 more fights, 15 more minutes in the cage, and about 4.5 more years as a pro fighter. Also 4 more UFC level fights and a handful of more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Cutelaba with the better finish rate, 88% overall compared to 70% for Nzechukwu. And both these guys are finishing between 60 and 70% rates at the UFC level. They're knockout artists. They're not getting submissions. As a matter of fact, only one submission attempt between both of these guys at the UFC level in their combined careers. And that's in 22 fights. So we've got 2 guys who aren't particularly durable either, as Nzechukwu's been finished in 2 of 3 losses, and Cutelaba's been finished in 6 of 8 losses, and in 6 of 7 UFC losses. So definitely violence is probably the best bet here, but it is juice to the tits, so tread lightly. But while this is at striking range, you know, you got to close the distance on Nzechukwu. So that's part of the problem here, is that Cutelaba is very explosive early in fights, but because of that, he's got a pacing problem, and you can't fight that way for 3 consecutive rounds, especially when you're walking into the cage at 220 pounds. You know, cardio is more of a thin man's, a lighter man's game. You know, that's why you don't see like 250-pound men, you know, winning marathons. You know, you just got to carry more weight. You can't go that long when you're that big. So Cutelaba is always somebody that's had problems figuring out a pace that he can push for a full 15 minutes. So that's why his fights are finishing inside the distance so many times at the UFC level. Excuse me. Cutelaba with the better striking metrics here, about a positive 1.35 significant strike differential. Good power numbers, about the same as Kennedy on the power numbers, though. Almost the same as Kennedy on defense and the offense. But I think really what's going to happen here is it's going to be the grappling that kind of figures out who wins this fight, because Cutelaba is going to mix in those takedowns and throw bombs. He's just going to be a problem early in the fight. But if you can weather that storm, and Kennedy Nzechukwu is the type of guy we've seen do that before, he can absolutely come back and put a can of whoop ass on you in the second and the third, because the kid's got amazing conditioning. He's one of these guys that's got a rare mix of that durability, that conditioning, and that size that you just don't see in the same package very often. Both of these guys have a 1.6 ratio in their strength of schedule, but it's Cutelaba who's fighting the much more experienced competition and beating the much more experienced competition. This is a very interesting fight. First of all, fight doesn't go to decision. It feels like a parlay piece for me, because I think it's either Cutelaba early or Nzechukwu late. And we even saw Nzechukwu go to the grappling in the last fight against Roberson. He got 5 takedowns. He showed that there's some growth to his game because he's still new, because he's only been doing this for 6 years. You know, Kennedy started when he was 24. So he was already kind of old when he started, and then he was just very busy right off the bat. I think he got his Contender Series fight with something like 2 or 3 professional fights underneath his belt at that point. So Kennedy is still kind of making improvements, and Ion Cutelaba is still only 28 years old, but it's getting to the point where there's a lot of, you know, he's got almost as many professional fights as he does years on this earth. So Ion's been fighting a lot. He's been very, very busy, fighting almost 3 times a year. And you wonder when this is going to catch up with him, because it's not like he's going out there and losing close fights. You know, this guy's getting dick sawed when he loses. He's been finished in all but 1 loss. And I forget which one it was, but I seem to remember it could have easily been, you know, a finish there too. So I think I'm going to pick Nzechukwu to win this fight. And I think I'm going to pick him to win it by 3rd round KO. Yep, Kennedy, KO, round 3. I think that conditioning that Kennedy has, that ability to be able to weather the storm, to shell up when his opponents are throwing heavy, and now the fact that he is able to mix in a takedown or two, I think is going to be another way that he can find places to rest when his opponents are trying to empty the tank on him. And if he can make his opponents wear his weight and that gigantic size that he has, it's going to be a good thing for Kennedy's long-term prospects in this division. The pick, Kennedy and Nzechukwu by 3rd round KO. I think it's going to be a great, exciting fight. Definitely very high probability of being the fight of the night on this card. And that brings us to the main event, everybody. I got to go down here. There it is. Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, plus 170, going up against Nosferatu, Serghei Spivac, a 713-year-old vampire from Transylvania. He's minus 200, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 600. Whew, boy, this is a great fight, and this is going to be a fun one. But we've got the striking of Derrick Lewis going up against the grappling of Serghei Spivac. Spivac 10 years younger. These guys are the same height. It's going to be Lewis with a 1-inch reach advantage. Lewis with a lot more experience, about 20 more fights, 200 more minutes in the cage, 16 more fights at the UFC level, and about 150 more minutes in the UFC cage. But definitely getting to that point where there's some tread on the tires. And Derrick Lewis, another guy who doesn't like to lose close decisions. He likes to get knocked the fuck out and lose spectacularly. So both of these guys are great finishers. 87% career finish rate for Spivac, 85% career finish rate for Derrick Lewis. But it's Spivac who's, an equal opportunity finisher, getting knockouts and submissions. Well, it's just knockouts for Derrick Lewis. He does have one submission win in the UFC. I don't remember how he got that. Might have been a tap to strikes, but he does have one. On the feet, Derrick Lewis is the definition of a puncher's chance. This guy's numbers are terrible. He throws 5 significant strike attempts per minute. That's it. His opponents throw even less. He lands 2.57 significant strikes per minute. He's got only 0.53 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So he doesn't even get a lot of knockdowns. He just lands one big flurry and the ref has to step in. But he's fine losing every minute of the fight up until that point. A great example of when people seem to say, oh, well, Derrick Lewis is a better striker. He's not. He's got power. Derrick Lewis has power, and that's it. He's not a good striker. There's no process to his game. He doesn't set traps. He doesn't have good footwork. He doesn't have good defense. He's got a 41% striking defense. Spivac has actually got good striking. I mean, when you watch Spivac box, you're like, oh, wow, that guy's done some boxing. He's got good straight punches. He's got a jab. He's got it too. He throws it in combination. But he's mostly using that striking to get in, get in the boxing range and then clinch up with you. And then once he clinches up with you, it's like this guy can throw around 500-pound men, I swear to God. I mean, the way that this dude throws around large men, making it look easy and not getting tired doing it, is really fucking phenomenal. At heavyweight, you got to work to get takedowns at heavyweight. It looks effortless when Spivac does it. And he's not thrown around like these undersized heavyweights. Tai Tuivasa, he threw him all over the fucking cage. Greg Hardy, cuts weight to make 266. That guy was walking into the cage almost 300 pounds. Fucking Serghei threw him all over the place. That fat fuck, Augusto Sakai, 260 pounds, throwing him around like nothing. Serghei's wrestling and grappling is next level. His top control is next level. His ground and pound is next level. And then his ability to get rear naked chokes after he pounds the shit out of you is also excellent. I think Serghei Spivac easily wins this fight, everybody. Could he walk into a big straight right from Derrick Lewis? Of course he could. Dude, Derrick Lewis has won 21 fights inside. What 0.81 times 26? 21 fights by knockout in his career. And at the UFC level, it's 13. 13 UFC knockouts. So, of course, he's live for the puncher's chance, just like Alex Pereira was. Alex Pereira lost 3 out of 4 rounds. And then in the 5th round, got the big puncher's chance. But here's the problem with Lewis, right? Lewis ain't making it past the 2nd round. You know, he got the 4th round victory against Shamil Abdurakhimov, but that's just because Abdurakhimov didn't finish him on the ground. And then Derrick was like, fuck this. I'm putting you on your back, and then I'm going to finish you. So Serghei Spivac's much better on the ground than Shamil Abdurakhimov will ever be. So I think Serghei's going to dick saw this dude. I think he's going to throw him around, get him on the ground, and pound him out or submit him. The pick is going to be Serghei Spivac by 2nd round. We'll call it knockout. But I love Serghei Spivac's chances here. I think he's a great heavyweight fighter with a super high ceiling because he's got serviceable striking, he's got excellent conditioning, and he's got fantastic grappling. And there's not a lot of guys that can grapple in this division straight up. And, you know, the guys that can are really fucking good. Guys like Tom Aspinall. Those are the guys that are beating Serghei Spivac. Or guys like Walt Harris, the guys who have that really good power. But, I mean, come on. We can't compare the athleticism of Derrick Lewis and Walt Harris, okay? Walt Harris is explosive. Derrick Lewis lumbers. He's slow. So, yeah, I'm looking for Serghei Spivac to get this thing done in round number 2 by ground and pound. And it might even be round number 1. But that does it, you guys. We broke down all 12 fights. I took you through the stats. I took you through my tape study notes. We've got some good tracked bets here already on this card. So let's break those down before we get to the last order of business of the night. The track bets thus far for UFC Vegas 65. We're going to start with the max bet that I put on the Brady Hiestand money line. That's 5 units, minus 148, 5-unit max bet. Like I said, I don't like the fact that Fernie slows down. I don't like the fact that Fernie has very poor takedown defense. And I don't like the fact that he doesn't have the kind of one-punch power that leads me to believe that even if this fight is standing for 3 minutes, that he's going to have enough time to land that big shot. So really, really, really feel strongly about Brady Hiestand easily winning this fight. So I put a 5-unit max bet on it. I have a 2-unit bet on Serghei Spivac inside the distance at minus 130. So the fight doesn't go to decision for the Lewis Spivac fight is minus 600. So whoever you're betting, you might as well bet them to win inside the distance because the bookies are saying 85 to 88% of the time this thing finishes inside the distance. So we don't really have to worry much about that 12%. I don't know what a 25-minute fight between Spivac and Lewis looks like, but it would look like something we probably haven't seen in a minute in the UFC heavyweight division. So, and because I think Spivac, can absolutely take advantage of Derrick Lewis's poor takedown defense. And for those of you who are saying, oh, well, what if he pulls when he pulled on Blades? Look, Blades was outstriking him at that point. I mean, Blades clearly won that first round and almost knocked out Derrick Lewis. So Blades outstruck Lewis on the feet. But Blades is a freestyle wrestler. Serghei Spivac gets upper body takedowns. He's not going to have to shoot in on a single or a double leg and drop his head to where he could get uppercutted. He can use his 1-2 to get into range, get his arms around Lewis, and then from there, he's going to trip him, start to throw him around the cage. And once he does that a couple times, Lewis is going to look for the door. So 1.3 or 2 units on the Spivac inside the distance line, minus 130 on Bet Online. I got that 1 unit Chase Sherman finish only, probably plus 250. Just extremely wide line. I'm getting the better finisher here. I'm getting the guy that finished Vandera when his opponent couldn't finish Vandera. And I'm getting the guy that is coming off a full fight camp rather than the guy who just fought 3 weeks ago and is probably going to be limping into the cage, still feeling the effects of the Jared Vandera low kicks. And then I've got 1 unit on the Zhalgas Zhumagulov money line at plus 140 for 1 unit. And I'm also looking at the Vanessa Demopoulos money line at plus 105 right now. But that brings us down to the last order of business, you guys. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who is going to win this week in a violent manner, in a way that makes us say, oh my God, did you see that? That was one-sided. That was a dick saw. That was an ass shaving. Who's going to do it in dominant fashion this week? And we got my guys in here saying, Moai is saying Sherman leg kick TKO. I would love to see that because I'd be up 2.5 units on a 1-unit bet. And then Pink Floyd saying, I went from parlaying Waldo to fading him in a 2-week time span. Hey, I think Waldo was the ass shaving of the week 2 weeks ago. He got the job done. He won that fight. It was close, but he won it. But yeah, for him to come back in less than a month, in after a 15-minute, close fight where Jared was landing a lot of low leg kicks, it's too much, man. That's what they were saying about Yorgan De Castro, Weezy. Oh, I hate Yorgan De Castro. He is just absolutely awful. But yeah, he does have good leg kicks, but it doesn't matter. Let's see here. Kennedy all day. Waste of talent, bad fight IQ, and also a quitter. I've sworn off betting UFC heavyweight main events. No, thank you. I get that, man. Especially when Derrick Lewis, my balls are hot, is fighting. Yeah. And Mushroom saying ass shaving Spivac or Hiestand. And MA saying, I reached out to you last week on Twitter about a Sheets question. Could you please get back to me at Syrup Papyrus? I'll mention you again. All right, cool. Send it again. Do me a favor. Send that to me again right now, M.A. Laren, if you could, because I haven't seen anything for a second. But yeah, I'll answer your question for you anytime. And yeah, Spivac or Hiestand is the question, and the answer. I mean, if you're going to look for someone to shave somebody's ass, why wouldn't you pick the 704-year-old vampire from the hills of Transylvania, one Serghei Spivac, a handsome man? That's who Smooth Jimmy's got. He was telling me, he's like, dude, I got Spivac inside the distance. I think he ground and pounds this guy out, and Lewis looks for the door and potentially even retires after this one. And, I see the same thing, man. I'm picking Serghei Spivac here. I think he shaves ass. And let me get that banner up here on the screen so you guys know that I'm not playing with you. Serghei Spivac to shave the ass of Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. Black Beast has got that puncher's chance, just like Pereira had it last week. He could prove me wrong and bust up my 4-leg parlay because I had Adesanya as the 4th leg and the first 3 cashed. So we're doing it again this week. We're going right back to the well. I'm picking against the puncher's chance guy, and I'm saying, well, I mean, we had Hooker as the ass shaving of the week last week, and that worked out beautifully. But yeah, you guys were going with Serghei Spivac to shave the ass of Derrick Lewis. His balls will be hot. His ass will be razor burned, and this is going to be it for him. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Tuesday night, an hour and 43 minutes in. We broke down all 12 fights on this UFC Vegas 65 card. Gave you all the track bets that I've done so far. Join that Patreon for only $5 a month, and you can get these stats that you see here on Just the Tip mailed to you at least 10 days before every event. You can get this beautiful prop template for the over-under betting that'll help you be able to decide what lines are overpriced and underpriced. And if you're a guy that does big bets on overs and unders at $20 a month, this is an absolute steal. But I appreciate all the support. Thank you for the donation earlier today. I appreciate you for that. And I appreciate all you guys for coming and hanging out on my channel. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can catch me tomorrow, 6 o'clock Central Time on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show. Right back here, 10 o'clock Central Time for Ask Weezy tomorrow night. I'll answer all your questions about UFC Vegas 65, any of the matchups, any of the fighters on the card. And then the only thing left to do, everybody, is to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 65. Let's keep this winning streak going, and I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless each and every one of you. Good night.